Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another paper crafting video tutorial. Today I have another fun Halloween home decor project. This is a DIY Halloween clock, and we are using the Tim Holtz clock with a lot of fun ephemera and ideology, but we're also implementing some really fun Simon Says stamp product. And I'm excited to show you how I put this clock together, and even more excited to share this in my home decor or display it in my home decor this year. First up, I have my Pink and Main Mink machine. This is the Mini Mink. These are the acetate foil transfer sheets from Simon Says Stamp, and these obviously are the wonderful moon and bat acetate sheets. And when I saw these, I thought this would make the perfect background for the Halloween clock. If we foil this, I foiled it with yellow Simon Says Stamp Deco foil. If we foil it and cut it into a circular shape, we can place it in the back of the clock and then kind of decorate in front of it. And I think that moon with bats is going to be the perfect Halloween backdrop for my project. So this is what inspired and kicked off this entire Halloween clock today, is this amazing acetate sheet. Now, while I had my mink out, I did go ahead and foil two panels. I made one clock for Simon Says Stamp and one clock for myself. So I just went ahead and kind of did double duty while I was working on this. Also, I am going to be foiling one of the Witch Please images to use for decorating the front of my clock. So one is a more solid image and one's negative and one is positive. Now, you're just going to need to find a circular die to die cut your shape. And I decided to die cut mine with these Hero Arts circle infinity dies. They always are great. I have my splatter box here. I've also die cut a circle from white cardstock, and I'm using an assortment of distress spritzes in beautiful purples, blues. I think that's Uncharted Mariner, Wilted Violet, Fossilized Amber, just to create this spooky moon background that we can then put our moon in front of, spooky sky background that we can put our moon and bats in front of. That's how I want to say that. And I went ahead and really kind of heavily doused this, and then I'm going to use my heat tool to kind of help speed up the drying process for my night sky background. And I used that same Hero Arts Infinity die to die cut the foiled acetate panel as well as my cardstock. Once I have my background die cut and dry, I do want to take some black soot distress ink and go around the edges just to deepen and darken this. This will be adhered to the back panel of the clock. Now, if you've never used one of these Tim Holtz clocks before, the back does just pop off, and so it makes it really easy to decorate. I'm going to decoupage or use the multi-matte medium to glue this panel to the back. But before I do that, I did know that I wanted to apply or use some of the Tim Holtz mini lights inside of my clock so that it lights up with that spooky vibe. And because of that, you can do it and the lights work just fine if you just kind of have them trail out the back. But I decided to take my drill and just drill a hole in the back of the clock. So I did want to mention that. I didn't film it. I had to go outside. I think I said some not good words because just trying to find the right place to do it. And it actually was super easy. I don't even know what I was doing. But anyway, so we're going to drill a little hole in it is basically what I'm telling you. Oh my goodness, look how good that's going to look. I love it. Love it, love it. Okay, so adding the black edge, I just helps disguise it a little more. Now, that being said, I also think that I want to pop up my foiled panel. And then I had another thought, and I took some Frozen Frog Distress Mica Stain to give a little bit more shimmer and some of those kind of silvery highlights or stars to my night sky. That is looking amazing and I love it. Okay, so to decoupage this in, I'm going to use a paintbrush and the multi-matte medium, as I mentioned, and you can see I have a hole in the back of my clock now. And that is just going to be the perfect spot to thread my lights inside of the clock. So we are going to pop up the foiled panel. And then before I did that, I decided I wanted to distress my clock a little bit. And I have this sanding tool that I get off of Amazon. I use it for everything. I do a lot of cross-stitch finishing for those of you who follow me just for paper crafting. And there's a lot of wood finishing and painting and things like that that go into some of my finishes. And this sanding tool is invaluable. Well, I found another use for it with sanding and kind of distressing up and kind of making this black clock a little less perfect, if you will, grunging it up to match the spooky Halloween vibe. I will link this down below if you're interested. It comes with lots of different grits of sandpaper. It's super inexpensive and it's invaluable if you do any kind of sanding. At all. And I don't do a ton of sanding. I'm a very novice sander, but if I need a sanding tool, this is a wonderful thing to have. I find myself going and reaching for it over and over, and it fits in your hand really comfortably. Okay, so after I've grunged that up just a little bit, I'm happy with that now. And we're going to take that multi-matte medium and adhere the sky to the back of the clock. Now, I probably should have just punched a hole where the lights are going to thread through, but full disclosure, I knew that you would never see it because I'm keeping it down at the bottom. And I'm going to fill the bottom of my clock with some things, some Tim Holtz ideology and all of the cute Halloween stuff. So I just poked a hole with my piercing tool through the paper. And I did make one of these florals off camera just to make sure that I thought it was going to be what I wanted. And so I'm just double checking. I find when I am creating like this, I am constantly checking and double checking myself. Now with the multi-matte medium, I would recommend if you do what I do and use a paintbrush, make sure you clean your paintbrush right away. So I'm going to put a nice even application all over the back of my circle. And then I'm going to press it to the back of my clock. You can use whatever adhesive you want. This just worked really well for me. And after I have this centered and adhered, I'm pressing it. You can see I'm pressing it down. I'm trying to be careful where I did drill that hole. I probably should have used a little hammer and pounded that flat, but I didn't. The sharp edge is on the inside of the clock, not the outside or the back of the clock. So that's good. But here's that piercing tool I was talking about. I'm just poking a little hole. And that's going to give me a good guide for where I'm going to thread my lights through. I'm going to take a little bit more then of the Ranger Multi-Matte Medium and going around the edge of my background, I am going to make sure that it's completely sealed. And I just did end up putting a light coat all over the back of this piece. It does dry really quickly, so not going to have to worry about that at all. We can start moving right on to the fun part, which is embellishing this clock. I like that night sky. I think I need to remember this combination for cards as well, as I think it works really well. So some foam is adhered. I just used foam adhesive squares right on the back of the foiled areas only of my moon and bats. Obviously, you want to keep that hidden. You don't want the foam to show. And so it's not going to show back behind anywhere here, especially when we add a bunch of stuff. But I like that it's popped up just a little bit off of that night sky background. Even just this, look how cool this clock looks with that background. So again, the foiled acetate sheet was what inspired my entire design. So this little silver piece actually fits around the rim of the clock. It does keep popping off. I suppose it's made to pop off. I found it kind of irritating, but I did end up getting it glued down. And then I have some of the little mini purple lights from Tim Holtz, and you can cut them, but I wanted the inside of my clock to really glow. And I'm going to keep the whole strand. So I've threaded it through until kind of the hard wire part of it. Oh, isn't that pretty? And I will adhere that to the back of the clock panel when I'm done. So what I'm doing now is really fiddling. I'm going to wrap those lights into a circle shape, and then we're eventually going to glue them down. If you use hot glue, be very careful you don't put the hot glue on the lights. I had heard this in some other videos, but I guess it can short the lights out. And so I haven't had that happen. This is maybe the first time I've used the Tim Holtz lights, first or second. And so I simply am just kind of manipulating them around the edge first. Really, it took me a minute to wrap my mind around how this goes together. I kind of left this in because I think it's helpful to see the process, and maybe that it doesn't always go smoothly. And here's me fiddling and tangling all of the things. Anyway, I did end up using E6000 glue to glue that silver rim down. And I like to have some toothpicks handy. It helps with the application. So I am taking my E6000 and placing it around the inside rim. It isn't the neatest, tidiest thing you've ever seen, but it is on the inside, so I'm not going to worry too much. And if you are attaching anything metal, I would recommend the E6000. It is going to take longer to dry. It's not going to be immediately like hot glue, but I also find the hot glue doesn't hold very well the metal, like metal to metal. When we're gluing paper and things, I will be using hot glue, but that's just my personal preference. Definitely try and see what works best for you. I am going to hot glue the lights inside. So I really kind of tried to get that silver ring glued down in place first, and I'm cleaning up any glue with a toothpick and a dry rag right now, or a slightly damp rag, I guess I should say, before that glue sets. So that's what you're seeing me do with those toothpicks. Then on the inside, I am going to start gently hot gluing the lights around the perimeter of the clock. And I am putting the glue in between where the light is. So just where the wire is, like I mentioned a second ago, to make sure that I don't accidentally short anything out. So that is what I'm doing now. And it didn't go so well to start with, but you know, my motto, just keep trying, just keep going. It's going to work out in the end. And I know that I didn't realize it was so far down on my screen, so I do apologize. But let's just kind of manipulate them into the circular shape. And it will double up. It's a pretty long length of lights. But again, I like that it's really going to make the inside of the clock nice and lit up. So we're going to just kind of keep working it like so. And then I'm going to double check it. And when I'm happy with it, I'm going to turn them on. Yes, look how it makes the night sky glow. Isn't that fun? Now, obviously, they aren't glued down quite yet, but we can now kind of move those lights around. And once I am happy, and it may look kind of messy right now, but I promise once we get some stuff tucked in there, because there will be stuff down along the bottom, so it will kind of light up from the bottom. It's all around the top as well, but it's going to hide those wires is what I'm saying. So you're not going to see the wires, the reflection of the wires. It's just going to light up really fun. So when I'm happy with that, then I can hot glue or add that hot glue in areas. Now I also want to add some metal pieces. So remember when I was saying I was attaching that silver inner contrast piece in the clock, that metal to metal really applies better with the E6000. Well, I have this wonderful little plaque from Tim Holtz, one of his little signage. It says found objects. I think this one does. Yeah, it's from the Halloween, one of his Halloween collections, one of the years. I have a full drawer of ideology, 2 actually, in my craft room because I love it so much. And so I put a little glue on it, and then I have kind of manipulated it between the round part of the clock and the base. So there's glue at the top and the bottom. And then I have placed it here. Now I want to say full disclosure at this point, when I got the glue cleaned up, I let this sit overnight, and I actually came back and finished this the next day. As I mentioned a little bit ago, if you have not worked with E6000, it does take a while to dry, and I didn't want to bump it, manipulate it, mess it up in any way at all. And so I just simply let it sit and completely dry. But I love how it kind of gives a little signage to that bottom portion of our clock. I think that's perfect. Now, while it was drying, I didn't completely abandon my project. I went ahead and I die cut one of the witches from the Witch Please. I actually did 2 of them because I was doing both of these clocks. I die cut all of my flowers using the Cosmos and also the arched leaves or leaf die from Arching Leaf. There we go. From Simon Says Stamp. We're going to use these leaves and flowers. That is how we're creating that beautiful flower. It is not a silk flower or anything, a fabric flower. It is a paper flower that we're going to customize from white cardstock. So let's go ahead and do that. And I am taking my flowers in a little fossilized amber distress spritz, spritzing them, mostly covering but not completely. Then I am wadding them up in the paper towel. I like doing this on a paper towel so that I can kind of wad them up into that towel and absorb a little bit of the moisture, as well as crinkle the flowers and give them some texture. And then I did flip them and do the other side since these will be dimensional flowers. And we're going to let those sit and dry. But you can see I moved them to another area of my paper towel and scrunched them again. Especially scrunching them while they're wet is going to give them that fabulous tattered flower look. Now I have some green. This is Holly Branch Distress Mica Stain. I personally like the mica stain greens a little bit better than the Distress Spritz. There's no rules. We can use whatever we want. And again, we need to do the front and the back of these because they will be visible. And I am using the individual leaves from the Arching Leaf, not the beautiful arched leaf itself for this. That's perfect for other projects and cards. But I went ahead and used this, or used the individual leaves for my project today. Now I've also bent the leaves in half, and I did make sure that they were all bent while they were still wet, and I allowed all of these pieces to air dry. That is another thing that's great about letting your E6000 dry, letting anything that you're custom coloring or spritzing dry overnight, is when you come back, it's ready to go. So that is fantastic as well. So I also have some May Arts ribbon here, and we are going to spritz it with a little bit of our Purple Distress Spritz. This is going to be the bow. And I did do a little bit of Uncharted Mariner on here and even a little fossilized amber, but I really want it to be purple. And I'm going to scrunch that, and don't get it into the green or it will turn green. So I did it on that other side of my paper towel, and we're going to set our ribbon aside to air dry. Okay, it is the next day. Shall we go ahead and get this assembled? I think so. So what we're going to do now is hot glue. I did have to do a little cut into my acetate. We're going to hot glue our lights, which I ended up not doing at the time. And we're also going to add some of these bats. This is the bat trio from Simon Says Stamp. I've die cut them from some Luxe cardstock, and I'm using a little liquid glue to glue those down. You could use hot glue if you wanted to as well, but I found that that worked fine. And then my tattered flowers, there's 2 pieces to each, and I am using liquid glue to glue one piece to the other, and then just kind of crunching them back together and holding them together with some tweezers while that glue dries. That's what we're going to call these, is tattered flowers. And to me, these tattered flowers work fantastic for a Halloween project. Really anything, but I love how they look almost like they are, you know, a dimensional flower that you could purchase, but you've made them yourself from dyes and ink. And then we're going to glue down our lights. And it's not super pretty on the inside. I know this. As you're gluing, kind of hold it in place. I'm using my tweezers to help keep my fingers out of it, but I just want to wait till the hot glue dries. Also, the tweezers help to kind of manipulate the wire just a little bit. And we'll pop the back of our clock in place. And I am going to hot glue this. I'm going to see how it works the best. Probably should have used a little tie to tie up my wire, but it's fine. It's never going to be seen. Just going to put some hot glue on there. There we go. That'll work. And I'm holding it. We're going to flip the lights on just for a minute. And now I just need to make sure that the lights are all set before we can do the fun part. Now I saw that there was a little bit of glue sticking around the outer rim of my clock. So remember the sanding tool that we talked about earlier that I used to grunge or distress my clock a little bit? It has a nice little ridge to it. So I am taking that around the edges where I see some glue, and I am sanding it and loosening it. And then you can use, like I'm using the tip of my tweezers, a craft pick, a toothpick, and I'm just kind of getting rid of some of those little bits of glue that look really unattractive. And there was a little glue down here near the base. I'm also going to get rid of that. It's nice and secure now because it sat overnight. So I'm not too worried about it popping off. I'm not going to be that rough with it. But I feel like a little cleanup at this point is worth it to make your clock look beautiful and professional, especially if you've had some little glue accidents. E6000 is not tidy. Hot glue is not tidy. So that's what I'm doing here. Oh my gosh, you guys, look how cute. I love it, love it. Now there is one thing about these little signs, the ideology signs from Tim Holtz. I love them, but I think they need the little hardware, don't you? And Tim has some amazing little hardware. And so I have these little screws. I just think they finish it off perfectly. So I'm putting the teeny tiny ones on each end so that it looks very finished. And I did use E6000, and I am trying to clean up the glue. I use my toothpick to apply it because it's such a small amount. But look at what a difference that makes. Now, if you wanted to thread ribbon through that, that would be pretty too, but I'm going to do ribbon up above. So our witch is going to be standing here on the outside, and then there's going to be some florals there, and there's also going to be florals up on the upper left. This is the really, really fun part. I am hot gluing my leaves down. We're going to kind of build it from the base up. So we're going to pop our leaves down here in place, like so. We have a little arch. And full disclosure, I started with a couple and I ended up die cutting and inking way more because I wanted it to trail down that left side a little bit more. And so that's what I'll do there. And then we have our ribbon already inked up. I'm going to put that into a triple bow or double, triple. I can't remember. I guess we'll see here in a minute. But I really like the hot glue for this. And I love the leaves and the flowers. They just make this project. So we are going to, no, 1.5 is too small. I think I did a 2.5 inch bow. These are bow tools from 141 Design. And I am doing that double bow here. Nope, I'm going to do a triple. So you're looping it around multiple times. And you basically do figure eights around those two legs. You take your other end through the middle, and then that last little loop or side there, you pull the end. I lost it. There we go. You pull that end through that final loop and pull it tight. And it is going to give you a perfect bow every single time. The tools do a 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5 inch bow. This is the 2.5. It's probably my most often used. Ugh, that triple bow, you guys, how beautiful. And in the purples to kind of match the sky and the lights. We're going to put some glue on the back and pop that in place before we start adding flowers and everything. And then I'm going to kind of crinkle up the ends and see how long I want to keep those. I tend to leave them a little longer and then, you know, shorten them as needed. And then we've got our florals. And I'm going to end up adding 3 florals up here, tucked kind of around the base of the bow and where those leaves meet. But we want to tuck them into it. So kind of like so. Ugh. And I also want to incorporate some of these beautiful black bats. And again, that's the Simon Says Stamp Luxe cardstock. It's a great glittery cardstock. It's absolutely perfect. We're going to do another flower right here. And then we need one more down along the left side. And just kind of playing with the loops and the tails to get that bow the way I want. Gluing the bats to the leaves and everything as well. So pretty. On the inside of the flowers then, I have some great little pearls. I think these might be Trinity Stamps pearls, but any pearl. They're kind of a goldish color. I will link them down below, the exact color as long as I can find them. Anything like that. I just wanted something that matched. And this is a great use for some of those bigger pearls that you maybe don't always use on cards. Home decor, they work great. And I'm simply using an embellishment wand to place those right in the center of my finished florals. Look how good that looks. Now I want to color these glass baubles from Tim Holtz. I've got a little of his alcohol ink. I just put them in a plastic baggie with a few drops of ink and shook it around really gently to color them. And then I dumped them out to dry. Real technical. I know that that's done a lot. And I think I've even maybe seen Tim do it in the past in one of his videos. I think it was Tim. So very easy to do. But I wanted my bubbling cauldron here in my clock to have green in it. And I did hot glue those, or no, I think I used E6000 maybe to glue those in place. So they're in the cauldron. I will say inside of the clock here, I did put a little moss down in the bottom. I hot glued then a skull, some bones, some pumpkins, the cauldron with the little baubles in it. And that is simply just gluing them in place, assembling and gluing. If you want to make your bones, the long bones go a little further, you can break them in half. I did do that so that it looks like there's more than I actually used, because these are a premium in my craft stash. All of the Tim Holtz Halloween is a premium. I don't want to use it all up. And then I do want to, oh, my phone fell over. I want to foil the witches. I think I forgot to foil those. So I'm running those through with some yellow deco foil. And it's fine. I'm still waiting for some additional leaves and flowers to dry. So just kind of taking our time here. Let me know down in the comments, have you decorated one of these clocks? Do you like doing home decor? Do you want to see more home decor type of seasonal projects in upcoming videos? I know it's something that had been requested, and so I'm trying to start doing a few more of those, especially as my favorite times of the year are coming up. Halloween, fall, and Christmas, of course. So definitely let me know down in the comments. I'm loving this so much. So we are going to tuck our cute little, she looks like she's kind of a raggedy little witch with her hair. We're going to glue our little foiled gal down. I'm going to put a little glue where she's sitting. I've tucked her kind of back behind the sign and then along the right side of the clock. And then we're going to tuck leaves. So we're going to glue leaves kind of back behind, coming out, and then we're going to tuck florals and leaves in front. Matching the vibe we have going on the left side. Ugh, I love it. So there we're going to tuck that one in as well. Adding a little extra glue when I feel like it needed a little bit more security. We're also going to tuck some individual leaves. So this is where I really used the individual leaves, was right here. And it's coming all together, isn't it? Doesn't it look amazing? This was so much fun. Gonna add a little more glue back there where I felt like it needed it. Put a little dab of glue in the center. I think I used liquid before, but that's okay. We're going to use hot glue for that one. And then don't forget to clean up the little, hot glue strings, the spider webs is what I call them, that are all over. And of course, adding in another bat over here, I feel like. We have the 3 bats on the left side, of course, inside, and then we're just going to add another little one right there. I love it, love it, love it. So much fun. Let's turn the lights on. And here is the finished clock. I love the lights shining. I love all of the fun little stuff tucked down in the bottom and how it all coordinates and comes together. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Halloween clock seasonal decor piece. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, click that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new video. Thanks for watching!